So a common situation that comes up in final projects is how do we know when two things collide? I think collide rect is the easiest way to check for this. A simple example here, let me show you how I run it. Okay, so I have two rectangles, one stationary, one moves with the mouse, and all that happens is I'm changing the color when it hits, just to demonstrate the process. Now obviously in your game, when one rectangle hits another, maybe someone loses life, maybe someone gains coins or score, whatever, doesn't really matter. Okay, so my first rectangle is stationary, so I can define it outside my while loop if I want to. The other one's moving, so I better define it inside my while loop because I want it to adjust as the mx, my adjusts. And of course, all I'm doing is saying if they collide, do something. Now, in this case, again, I'm just drawing it in yellow as opposed to drawing it in this weird green that I've chosen. Okay, a couple issues come up with sprites. One is how do you get the rectangle for the guy? So supposing I have a guy and I don't know, maybe he's holding something. Maybe a shield. Okay, and maybe the full image is like this, and you say to yourself, well, it's going to be a little lame if you know a sword comes or something and hits him there and he takes damage. So what you might want to do is define a smaller hit area there. Okay, and so for taking damage, that's a common issue. It's going to go on, and as far as doing damage goes, well, most people don't do damage like with their their forehead and stuff. And so you might have a situation where you have another guy and he is doing some kind of jab there. I don't know. He's pretty angry though. And maybe I want to define only this as being the area where the damage applies. Now you could be very precise and apply a point, but usually you want to be a little forgiving in terms of having things match. So you have the full picture of the guy. And so you want to find something that is offset from that. And both ideas are similar, right? You are taking a sub-image from inside the image. Okay, so I want to go through this process. And I'll grab this guy, I guess. It doesn't matter which one we grab. The process is the same. And so what I would use is just paint. So for here, I'm going to crop from my image, but you would have just the small image already. So I'm going to take that, bring it into Paint. Now I like Paint because you see it gives me all this information at the bottom here. My pixel location on the screen. Now when you first load your image in Paint, the top left of the image will be at 0, 0. So when I talk about this spot here, like 4320, well, that's an absolute value, but it's also an offset from the inside the guy. Okay, so I have this. Now if I do a highlight, look at the bottom of the screen there. Now I changed my location a bit, but anyways, so 4624 and the width and height 81 182. Okay, so I write down 4624 and the 81 142. Okay, so how do I incorporate this into my code? Well, go back to my example. Okay, so I have the box, which is going to show up on the screen, but I also want a hitbox corresponding to that. So I'm not going to use the actual box to check for collision anymore. I'm going to use this secondary box. Okay, so first off, how big was my image? I don't know. So the full image here, let's say it's like 180 by 180. Okay, So let's change this example to make it where I am corresponding more to like a picture. So I'm going to draw from the top left corner, and it's going to be 180 by 180. Okay, so for the full boxes, that'll work. Now I want an offset from there. So let's just call this box to hit. Okay, so I said it was 46 over, 24 down, and the size of that box was 81 by 142 if I can read my writing. Okay, and for the collision check, I'm no longer using the full box 2. I'm now using the box 2 hit box. And just to see what's going on with this hit box, I'm just going to draw it. In the final version of the game, I'll get rid of this line. But for now, I think it's very useful to draw where your hitboxes are, because sometimes you think they're in the right spot and they're not. So drawing them on the screen is helpful feedback. And not making errors is also helpful. My my plus 24. Okay, try that again. Okay, so you can see the blue corresponds to the full picture of the guy, and I have this lesser one. See, nothing's happening here until I hit the actual, and I probably should draw that afterwards so you can see it, but I think you saw that it was working. Okay, so again, it corresponds only to the smaller rectangle inside, and that's how you handle collisions well in your game.